Hi everybody, David from Pinecker01. Today we're going to go further, wrapping up the Smoky God. The playlist is here, linked down below for all of the parts, all the chapters, so to speak. Today we're going to read the conclusion and the, what do they call it, the afterword. And then I'm going to wrap it up with some commentary. Actually, I think quite a bit of commentary. I mean, you can go really deep into this if you really start thinking about it. Okay, so part 6, conclusion. In concluding this history of my adventures, I wish to state that I firmly believe science is yet in its infancy concerning the cosmology of the Earth. There is so much that is unaccounted for by the world's accepted knowledge of today, and will ever remain so until the land of the Smoky God is known and recognized by our geographers. It is the land from whence came the great logs of cedar that have been found by explorers in open waters, far over the northern edge of the Earth's crust, and also the bodies of mammoths whose bones are found in vast beds on the Siberian coast. Northern explorers have done much. Sir John Franklin, de Haven Grinnell, Sir John Murray, Kane, Melville, Hall, Nansen, Schwatka, Greeley, Perley, Ross, Gerlach, Bernacchi, Andre, Amundsen, and others have all been striving to storm the frozen citadel of mystery. Well, there's a lot of research just right there, you know. I firmly believe that Andre and his two brave companions, Strindberg and Fracknell, who sailed away in the balloon Orion from the northwest coast of Spitzberg on the Sunday afternoon, July 11th, 1897, are now in the within world, and doubtless are being entertained as my father and myself were entertained by the kind-hearted giant race inhabiting the inner Atlantic continent. Having, in my humble way, devoted years to these problems, I am well acquainted with the accepted definitions of gravity, as well as the cause of the magnetic needle's attraction. And I am prepared to say that it is my firm belief that the magnetic needle is influenced solely by electric currents which completely envelop the Earth like a garment, and that these electric currents in an endless circuit pass out of the southern end of the Earth's cylindrical opening, diffusing and spreading themselves over all of the, quote, outside, end quote, surface, and rushing madly on in their course toward the North Pole. Wow. And while these currents seem, well, anyway, just think of like Nikola Tesla, you know, the inventor. Look up him if you don't know who Nikola Tesla is. And yeah, just look up Tesla. And those of you who know Tesla will know exactly what this is about. And I don't mean Tesla, the electric car. I'm talking about Tesla, the man who invented free energy out of the ether, out of the air, for everybody to have. And it was suppressed. And while these currents seemingly dash off into space at the North's curve or edge, yet they drop again to the inside, quote-unquote, surface and continue their way southward along the inside of the Earth's crust, toward the opening of the so-called South Pole. We get a note 24 here. Mr. Lemstrom concluded that an electric discharge which could only be seen by means of the spectroscope was taking place on the surface of the ground all around him, and that from a distance it would appear as a faint display of aurora, the phenomenon of pale and flaming light, which is sometimes seen on the top of the Spitzberg Mountains. It might be like similar to the Northern Lights, I don't know, but it sounds a little bit different. Interesting. As to gravity, no one knows what it is, because it has not been determined whether it is an atmospheric pressure that causes the apple to fall, or whether 150 miles below the surface of the Earth, supposedly one halfway through the Earth's crust, there exists some powerful lodestone attraction that draws it. Therefore, whether the apple, when it leaves the limb of the tree, is drawn or impelled downward to the nearest point of resistance, is unknown to the students of physics. Sir James Ross claimed to have discovered the magnetic pole at about 74 degrees latitude. This is wrong. The magnetic pole is exactly one-half the distance through the Earth's crust. Thus, if the Earth's crust is 300 miles in thickness, which is the distance I estimate to be, then the magnetic pole is undoubtedly 150 miles below the surface of the Earth. It matters not where the test is made. And at this particular point, 150 miles below the surface, gravity ceases, becomes neutralized, and when we pass beyond that point on toward the, quote, inside, end quote, surface of the Earth, a reverse traction geometrically increases in power until the other 150 miles of distance is traversed, which would bring us out on the inside of the Earth. Now, I just want to make a quick little note here. This drill hole on Earth, and that is the Kola Superdeep borehole. I think it was the Russians, and that is only 12 kilometers deep. Yeah, it's the Russians. So it's about 7.5 miles down. So if you figure that they even says here, the deepest we ever drilled was the Kola Superdeep, which is 12 kilometers deep. And the distance to the center of the Earth is 6,300 kilometers. So you see, we've really just, scratched the surface, so to speak. You'll see over here, we have the atmosphere, the crust, the troposphere where we live, the crust, the upper mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. And there's a lot not known about this. I'll get into some of this in my wrap-up later on. There's so much research just right here, So here we go into this. Thus, if a hole were bored down through the Earth's crust at London, Paris, New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles, a distance of 300 miles, it would connect the two surfaces, while the inertia and momentum of a weight dropped in from the outside, quote-unquote, surface would carry it far past the magnetic center, yet before reaching the quote-unquote inside surface of the Earth, it would gradually diminish in speed, having passed the halfway point, finally pause and immediately fall back toward the quote outside end quote surface, and continue thus to oscillate like the swinging of a pendulum with the power removed until it would finally rest at the magnetic center, or at the particular point exactly one half the distance between the quote outside end quote surface and the quote inside end quote surface of the Earth. The gyration of the Earth in its daily act of whirling around in its spiral rotation at a rate greater than 1,000 miles every hour, or about 17 miles per second, makes of a vast electro-generating body, a huge machine, a mighty prototype of the puny man-made dynamo, which at its best is but a feeble imitation of nature's original. The valleys of this inner Atlantis continent, bordering the upper waters of the farthest north, are in season covered with the most magnificent and luxuriant flowers. Not hundreds and thousands, but millions of acres from with the pollen or blossoms are carried far away in almost every direction of the Earth's spiral gyrations and the agitation of the wind resulting therefrom. And it's these blossoms or pollen from the vast floral meadows, quote, within, end quote, that produce the colored snows of the Arctic regions that have so mystified the northern explorers. Note 25, Kane, Volume 1, page 44 says, "We passed the crimson cliffs of Sir John Ross in the forenoon of August 5th. The patches of red snow from which they derived their name could be seen clearly at the distance of 10 miles from the coast." Wow. La Chambre, in an account of André's balloon expedition on page 144, says, "On the Isle of Amsterdam, the snow is tinted with red for a considerable distance, and the savants are collecting in it to examine its microscopically. It presents, in fact, certain peculiarities in its thought that it contains very small plants. Scoresby, the famous whaler, had already remarked this. Beyond question, this new land, quote, within, end quote, is the home, the cradle of the human race, and viewed from the standpoint of discoveries made by us, must of necessity have a most important bearing on all physical, paleontological, archaeological, philological, and mythological theories of antiquity." Wow, those are big words for me to say. But what a powerful. Now this is Olaf Jansen, It's apparently his words right here. Beyond question, This new land within is the home, the cradle of the human race, and viewed from the standpoint of the discoveries made by us, must of necessity have the most important bearing on all, and all those big words, basically everything. It's, according to him, of course, if it's true, it's an unbelievable account. The same idea of going back to the land of mystery, to the very beginning, to the origin of man, is found in Egyptian traditions of the early terrestrial regions of the gods, heroes, and men from the historical fragments of Menetho, fully verified by the historical records taken from the more recent excavations of Pompeii, as well as the traditions of the North American Indians. Well, yeah, it's interesting. North American Indians have a lot about giants. As a matter of fact, did you know how Indians, they go, how? So they say hello to one another. I mean, I grew up in America, and that's what we used to play as little Indians when we were kids, how. That's how you said hello, how. And you know why they do this? They're showing they have 5 digits and not 6, which apparently the giant race had, which the many North American Indians, particularly those in the western part of the North America, have many legends about. The giant races, they come from within, in many cases, down below. Yeah, I just want to cut in here. I was, doing a little bit of research to throw some background pictures about, the giants in Death Valley and what have you. And I came across a pretty amazing realization here. All thanks to God, of course, because it started in the Bible. I was reading about, read Samuel. Well, anyway, I just talked about how, the Indian said with the right hand, how, show that you were of the clean race. So legend goes, many different Indian tribes. I mean, it's more than legend. It's obviously fact. It's handed down fact. So now we look at what 17:4 of Samuel, 1 Samuel, Old Testament, just to give you a little idea here, a champion named Goliath, David and Goliath, who was from Gath, came out of the Philistine camp. His height was 6 cubits and a span. And we read here that that's about 9 feet 9 inches tall, or about 3 meters high. So, a good, few feet bigger than most people. I mean, if that guy was playing basketball, he wouldn't even have to jump to slam dunk. He'd just, have to go like that, But that's not the amazing part. Get this. If we go to 2 Samuel, chapter 21, verse 20, right here. So we're still on about the Philistines at Gob and this and that, and Goliath. And still another battle, verse 20 starts, which took place at Gath. There was a huge man with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shimi, David's brother, killed him. With the slingshot. These 4 were descendants of Rapha in Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. So let's just, a little bit of due diligence here. And of course, you can get into all of this right here. This is a good, interesting author. I've seen him around for sure. They were all brothers of Goliath, the giant. The biblical text does not exactly say this. Only one of those men, Lahmi, is specifically said to be the brother of Goliath. Therefore, it is best to translate the term as giants, or Rephaim, as many English translations do. So Rapha means giants. So interesting. So you can see how far you can research and dive into this. But now we're on to something, because if you look over here, I'll put this link down below as well. It gets into the legends of the giant race legends, all that kind of stuff. And it makes it very clear. They showed their hands in such a manner when greeting strangers. The answer is quite simply to show that they are not of the tainted bloodline and did not possess the traits of bloodlust and violence. And this is North American Indians. West Coast side, I think many different tribes, a completely different, like, part of the world before contact was readily possible with people in the Middle East and North America. Although some of my Mayan friends do claim there were sailing ships going from Egypt back to Central America, and they have some evidences for that in the graffitis. I have a whole video on that online too. But nonetheless, so I'll put this link down below. Put a link to the 2 Samuel 21 verse as well. And it's just amazing, just with the very limited research, just like this just fell into line there, that the 6-fingered giants are recorded in the Bible and in North American legends. There's some great tales down the Grand Canyon of huge chambers found with a giant civilization, a giant race that had, incredible riches, and it's all out there under Death Valley. It's all documented to certain degrees in a legendary form, but some of these legends have a lot of evidence pointing to them. But I always found interesting that how is that they wanted to show, I got 5 fingers. I'm humanoid. I'm not one of them giants, one of those Nephilim, the fallen angels. Anyway, it is now 1 hour past midnight. The new year of 1908 is here, and this is the 3rd day thereof, and having at last finished the record of my strange travels and adventures I wish given to the world, I am ready, and even longing for the peaceful rest which I am sure will follow life's trials and vicissitudes. I am old in years, and ripe both with adventures and sorrows, yet rich with the few friends I have cemented to me in my struggles to lead a just and upright life. Like a story that is well nigh told, my life is ebbing away. The presentiment is strong within me that I shall not live to see the rising of another sun. Thus do I conclude my message. Olaf Jansen, period. Amazing story. Absolutely amazing. Part 7. Let me get rid of the author. The Authors Afterword. I found, all capitalized, I found much difficulty in deciphering and editing the manuscripts of Olaf Jansen. However, I've taken the liberty of reconstructing only a very few expressions, and in doing this have in no way changed the spirit or meaning. Otherwise, the original text has neither been added to nor taken from. It is impossible for me to express my opinion as to the value or reliability of the wonderful statements made by Olaf Jansen. The description here given of the strange lands and people visited by him, location of cities, and names and directions of rivers, and other information herein combined, confirm in every way to the rough drawings given into my custody by this ancient Norseman, which drawings, together with the manuscripts, it is my intention at some later date to give to the Smithsonian Institute to preserve for the benefit of those interested in the mysteries of the farthest north. In the mysteries of the, quote, farthest north, end quote, capitalized farthest north, the frozen circle of silence. It is certain that there are many things in Vedic literature, in Josephus, the Odyssey, the Iliad, the Terrain de la Paupières, quote, early history of Chinese civilization, end quote, Flammarion's astronomical myths, Lenormant's beginnings of history, Hesiod's Thigoli, Sir John de Motteville's writings and sighs, and Saïs's record of the past, that to say the least are strangely in harmony with the seemingly incredible text found in the yellow manuscript of the Old Norseman, Olaf Jansen, and now for the first time given to the world. The end. Now, before I'm going to make actually a separate video with my closing commentary. There's a couple points here. Number one is a very incredible end here. Although he starts saying he doesn't know how he could ever confirm it, he does state that he's apparently done quite a bit of research on it, one way or the other, by quoting or at least referencing these ancient historical references. It's also interesting that he wants to give this information because there's no maps and stuff. We didn't see those, but he wanted to give it to the Smithsonian Institution. Now, from all of the things I've read about giants, a lot of stuff on the, like I said, North American Indians did a lot of research on this, out through Death Valley and things like that. And I got a bunch of books and old DVDs. I think even up here, maybe. Yeah, I mean, here's one right here. This one right here, I don't even have a CD to play it anymore, but Weird Tales #1, Death Valley's Ancient Underground. And you see, they found all these giants. You can pause it and read this and check out more information. But in any event, a lot of these tales, the evidence, the facts were handed in or gotten a hold of by the Smithsonian Institute. So when he says here, I mean, there's historical newspaper articles with giant bones being found out there in the West, in the U.S., and other parts too, like other parts of the U.S. too. These Indian mounds, I mean, it was all over the U.S., all over North America. And these bones disappear for a large part. Just like, poof. Because there's articles, like old newspaper articles, you see it was right printed, big bones, big skulls, big everything. So now whether the claims of the Smithsonian Institute, destroying thousands of skeletons of from giants and stuff, that's hard to say. Here's a more recent article, Giants Found in China. There's so much if you search for this online. We could go into looking at a lot of these different books. We already have looked at a lot of these in the previous chapters, so go back and watch those videos. But there's more research that could be done here. I've heard there used to be someone on YouTube at a channel devoted to proving the authenticity of Olaf Jansen as a person, and that his claims appear to be valid. At least he was a real person who really believed this and really wrote this. But I can't find those on YouTube, and the person that mentioned this on the forum to me can't find them either. Hopefully they come. If you know where these are, please comment below. Because it'd be great to know more about Olaf Jansen. Was he a real person, and his father? But what we can do, we can research the author. And so far, I haven't discovered anything out of the ordinary about Willis George Emerson. So we're going to leave it there right now. I'm going to make one last video wrapping this all up with my own commentary on looking at, deeper at, is it a true tale, or is it just fake, or something in between? So stay tuned for that, and thank you for listening.